Hello everybody and welcome to another video, and today we're going to be revisiting Demon Hunter. Now it's been a long time since I actually looked at some Demon Hunter music, but I got this suggested to me. I think it might have been whilst I was actually still in the hotel, I could be wrong, but you know, haven't checked out the band for a while. I have enjoyed most of their music. There's been a couple of tracks of theirs that I checked out that I wasn't overly fond of. I think the first track I checked out of theirs, was Dirt Room. And I wasn't overly fond of that track. But then, you know, having listened to... I think I've listened to a fair few other of their tracks and I've quite enjoyed their music. And each one of their tracks seemed to have a deeply personal meaning to the singer. Whether it's going to be the same for this track, I don't know. Because we're looking at a track today called Heaven Don't Cry, which is a bit suggestive, really, in its title. I've got the lyrics here, which I'm hoping are going to be accurate, but they are on Genius, so, you know, who knows. So I think we'll just jump straight into the track and see what we've got. So, Heaven Don't Cry by Demon Hunter. Let's have a look.
Calling to return.
Well, there we go. Heaven Don't Cry by Demon Hunter. Interesting end to that song. Just random sudden ending. Now, I like it when bands do that, you know, because it sort of makes you go, oh, what? Now, like I said, it has been a while since I've listened to Demon Hunter, but that actually sounded quite different to how I remember them sounding. But in saying that, like I said before we actually looked at the track, a lot of their previous tracks that I've checked out have had a sort of very deep and personal meaning to the singer of the band. And in a lot of those tracks, you could really sort of feel the emotion behind the performance. You know, you could hear like the pain and agony in his voice when he was singing about specific things. You know, you could really feel the impact that the song had on the singer. This one, it doesn't seem to have that sort of emotionality behind it. It doesn't feel as deep and heartfelt as previous tracks that I've checked out. But again, with that being said, a lot of the previous ones I've also checked out live recordings quite a few times, and only a few like pre-recorded music videos and stuff like that. So that, you know, it could be I might be expecting the sort of live performance from a studio recorded track, and you know, that might not necessarily how it comes across on their albums. But there does seem to be something about this where he seems to be a little bit more removed from the track that he's recording than I'm used to hearing from the band. But don't get me wrong, it doesn't make it a bad track. I will say it's possibly not my favourite, but it doesn't make it a bad track. And there are aspects of it that actually reminded me of Paradise Lost a little bit. And now, when I say it reminds me of Paradise Lost, that gives you a very wide sort of scope of area that I could be talking about. And I'm probably talking about... I can't remember the name of the album. But it was shortly after Host, you know, when they did Host, Paradise Lost did their sort of Depeche Mode thing, and then they sort of headed back towards where they are now. You know, it's sort of just after the Host era that this elements of it remind me of. But anyway, there are aspects to this which do make, you know, suggest that there might be a personal element to the singer of the band, and it does sound like possibly talking about the loss of someone, maybe. Because it says, we fell into the abyss, eyes open wide, to chase a trivial fix all the way to hell. So we awaken to this, hearts broken, die. How do we lay it to rest? Time will only tell. So to me, it sounds like a relationship that's you know, that he's lost. You know, we fell into the abyss, arms open wide. You know, it sounds like, you know, they dove headfirst into this relationship, you know, to chase a trivial fix. You know, we you know, possibly fell in love. We jumped in feet first, you know, just to, you know, for that thrill of the, you know, companionship that we had. But it says to chase a trivial fix all the way to hell. So it sounds like they went in with all enthusiasm, but things possibly went bad towards the end. It says, so we awaken to this, hearts broken, die. How do we lay it to rest? Time will only tell. So it's like we've awoken to, like, the almost destruction of this relationship, you know, hearts broken. How do we lay it to rest? You know, how do we get past this? How do we, you know, put this to one side, forget about it, and move on? It says time will only tell. You know, time heals all wounds, that sort of thing. And it goes into a pre-chorus saying, I feel your burn, lighting us to home, calling to return before we go. And then goes into the chorus, heaven, don't you cry, we will find the rest in time. I'm not entirely sure what that could possibly mean. Now, if I remember correctly, the Demon Hunter started off as a Christian rock band. I don't know whether they still identify as that. And I can't remember whether it was this band or another one, where they sort of fell out of fell out of love with the whole sort of faith thing. So Heaven Don't You Cry could possibly be like he might have fallen out of love with the idea of your religion as a whole. Heaven Don't You Cry, don't weep for me. Possibly. I don't know. I could be wrong about previous statement. It might have been another, because I've covered quite a few Christian rock bands. Anyway, we'll carry on. Another soul to the sand. God help us try to see the sorrow at hand. Desperation kills. Before we falter again, wake to this night. How do we make our amends? Sacrifice our will. Right. So another soul to sand. God help us try to see the sorrow at hand. Desperation kills. Now, help us to see the sorrow at hand. That could be saying, like in future, help us to see that things are going bad before they get to the ultimate point where things are the worst they can possibly be and the worst possible outcome happens. You might end up being bitter, excuse me, and, hateful towards each other. Let us see that things are going bad and don't let us get that far. Desperation kills. You're desperate to hold it together. But by staying together, by holding it together, you're actually making things worse because, things are falling apart. It even says that, before we falter again, awake to this night, how do we make our amends? Before we make the same mistake again, wake us up and make us see what's happening. So, we don't make this mistake again. So, like, even if we do go our separate ways, we separate as friends, as it were, rather than being bitter towards each other, possibly. Then it goes back into that pre-chorus. I feel your burn, lighting us to home, calling to return before we go. Then it goes into an extended version of the chorus, which says, Heaven don't you cry, we'll find the rest in time, hope will draw the line to a place beyond, resign. And that gets sort of repeated until the end of the track, where it suddenly just ends. So yeah, like I say, it could very well possibly be about the loss of a relationship and the fact that he doesn't want to make that same mistake again. He doesn't want to let things get that far in the future. If he's in a relationship and it starts to go sour, he doesn't want to get to the point of resentment and bitterness. If he wants to be able to see if things are going wrong in future, he can take a step back and go, do you know what? Before we end up hating each other, let's just, go our separate ways, but we're, separate as friends rather than, having to live with all this bitterness and resentment. So it could well be what it's about. I could be completely off base. I'm not entirely sure. But like I said, it was a good track. It didn't feel as deeply emotional as previous tracks of theirs that I've checked out. But again, like I said, a lot of previous tracks I checked out were live videos. So, live performances tend to have a lot more impact and emotion behind them. So, there could be that aspect to it. But like I said, not really my favourite Demon Hunter song, but I did still like it. I very much enjoyed listening to it. And, I've enjoyed most of the music of theirs that I've listened to. There's been one or two that have been a bit hit and miss for me. But yeah, good to come back and revisit them. There was quite a few recent tracks of theirs. So I may well come back to some of the other more recent tracks that they've released. But, enjoyable piece of music. I really liked it. Like I said, had a little bit of a sort of Paradise Lost-ish feel to it. But, only very slightly in certain aspects. But good piece of music. But don't know what else I can really say about that, so I'll leave that as it is. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe if you should feel like it. And hope to see you all again soon. Bye-bye.